Welcome back to Vintage Camera Digest. The topic for today is how you can save a ton of money on 35mm film. So stick around and find out how. Film is expensive, and I think we've already firmly established that on this channel, so no surprises there. But what if I told you there was a way that you could save up to 40% on your 35mm film costs? Would you believe it? Well, it's true, and there's no secret coupon code or anything like that. What I'm talking about is bulk loading. Now, I know there are a lot of my viewers out there, probably about my age, that know all about bulk loading. But I'm guessing that if you're relatively new to film photography, you might not know what that is. So I'm going to bring y'all up to speed. Have you ever been shopping for film and see some films being sold in 100-foot rolls? And maybe you thought, that's odd, how would I put that in a camera? Well, you may not have thought exactly that, but maybe you've still wondered about it. The 100-foot rolls are for bulk loading, and it's more economical to do this since the companies don't have to pay for the packaging of the individual rolls. That part is left up to us. But before we jump in too far, there's one major caveat with bulk loading. Other than a few oddball specialty color films here and there, which are mostly repackaged motion picture film of some sort, it's mostly only available for black and white film. There was a time when you could get just about any film in bulk, color negative, transparency, as well as black and white. So yeah, that's right. Back in the day, you'd have been able to buy Kodak Portra and Ektachrome by the 100-foot roll. I hope that day comes again, but for now, I'm still glad we can get black and white film this way. Now, let's look at some numbers and do some figuring about what the potential savings might be. You can get about 18 36 exposure rolls from a 100-foot roll of film. So I went to the B&H website to get these prices, and I did a comparison with whatever films are available in 100-foot rolls versus what a single cassette of 36 exposures will cost. There may be a few I missed, but the majority of the major players are represented. So let's start with Kodak. Kodak T-Max 100, a 36 exposure roll is about $11. Bulk loaded, it's $9 for a savings of 18%. T-Max 400, a 36 exposure roll, is $11. Bulk loaded, it's $9.50 for a savings of 14%. Kodak Tri-X 400 is about $12 per 36 exposure roll. Bulk loaded, it's $9 for a savings of 25%. Now, Ilford FP4 is about $9.50 per roll. Bulk loaded, it's $7 for a 26% savings. Ilford HP5, about $9 per roll. Bulk loaded, $7 for a savings of 22%. Ilford Delta 100, $12 per roll. Bulk loaded is $7.33 for a 39% savings. Ilford Delta 400, $13 per roll. Bulk loaded is $7.67 for a 41% savings. Now, Ilford Pan F, $12.50 per roll. Bulk loaded, it's $6.94 for a whopping 44% savings. So let's go on. Kent Mirror 400, 40% savings. Kent Mirror 100, 30% savings. Arista EDU 100, 40% savings. Arista EDU 200, 38% savings. Arista EDU 400, 35% savings. Raleigh RPX 400, 20%. Raleigh Retro ADS, 30%, and Raleigh RPX 25, 40% savings. So if we look at all of these, the least amount of savings you'll get is from the Kodak T-Max films. But the biggest savings you'll get are from these Ilford Deltas and the Pan F, which are 40% and 44% savings respectively. So if you shoot a lot of film, that adds up and is pretty significant. And I don't think anyone can argue against bulk loading being economical. So how do you do it? And what do you need to get started? Well, you're going to need your 100-foot roll of film, a bulk film loader, reloadable film cassettes, scissors, tape, and a film changing bag or a film changing tent. If you have a dark room, you won't need the changing bag. The bulk loaders work in normal daylight. The film changing bag is only needed to load the 100-foot roll into the bulk loader. Now, there are several designs of bulk loaders out there. The most popular ones are probably the Watson loaders. These show up on eBay for around $30 to $40. There's also a similar design by Alden, and there's the Lloyd's design. You can find these now branded as Legacy Pro sometimes, but they all work about the same way. As for reloadable film cassettes, you're most likely going to see these plastic ones. You usually get them in packs of 10 or so for about $2 each. Now I just looked at the B&H website again, and they sell several different brands of what appears to be the exact same product at a variety of price points, of course. So if you'd feel safer buying the $3 ones over the $1 ones, well, just do what you need to do. But there's not really much difference in any of these as far as I can tell. Years ago, you could get metal ones, but those tended to have more light leaks in my experience, so I do like the plastic ones. As for the changing bag, well, you've got a lot of choices. The bag design, like this one, will run you about 30 bucks. Now, if you want one of the tent style ones, you're going to shell out a lot more money. The benefit of the tent style is that there's an open space interior and there's more room to move your hands around. The bags will just collapse around your workspace and sometimes get in their own way, but I regularly use both depending on what mood I'm in, and they both do fine. So, besides the bag or the tent, the first thing you'll need to do is get the film in the loader. And this is the step that must be done in the changing bag or complete darkness. But for the purposes of this video, I'll be doing this outside of the changing bag. This is just a junk roll of film, and there's really only about half of it left. I honestly don't remember why I have this or why I didn't shoot the entire roll or what it's doing outside of a bulk loader. But when you have a ton of photography equipment that you've spent a lifetime collecting, stuff like this just shows up. And it's going to come in handy for this demonstration. So let's take a look at the loaders. All bulk loaders have two chambers. The 100-foot roll goes in the large film chamber, and the cassette that you're loading goes in the cassette chamber. And here they are on the Watson type loader. You got your film chamber and your cassette chamber. And here they are on the Lloyd's type loader. Got your film chamber and the cassette chamber. So let's load the Lloyd type first. Remember, you're doing this in darkness. So the first step is to open the bulk loader by unscrewing the knob and removing any film spool that is already in there from a previous roll. Then we're going to insert the new roll. Again, you're doing this in the complete darkness. And we're going to be careful to make sure that we're putting it on the spindle. And at the same time, we're taking the leader of the film and passing it through this film gate, this felt film gate. So we're going to reattach the film chamber cover. And now you're good to go, and you can remove it from the changing bag. Now we'll do the same thing with the Watson loader, but there are a couple of things to point out with this one, and the same thing will apply to the Alden type loaders. The film gate on the Lloyd loader is just a simple slot protected by two strips of felt, and that's it. And that's exactly how all 35mm film cassettes work too. But the Watson and Alden loaders have a more complicated and maybe more robust gate system. With these, the main film chamber also controls the film gate. By rotating the cover one way, opens it, rotating it back the other way will close it. And these loaders have a safety lever, this right here, and a little notch on the main chamber cover. When the safety lever aligns with that notch, it means that the film gate is closed and it's safe to open the cassette chamber. And you can do so by lifting this lever. There we go. If the film gate is open, the lever will not align with that notch and you won't be able to open the cassette chamber. Also notice there's a little nub here on the main chamber cover that when the film gate is open, it effectively keeps the cassette chamber from being open. Now, all this is plastic, so if you try to force it open, you'll probably break it, and that will lead to you ruining $150 worth of film, so don't force that. You'll thank me later. Anyway, let's start by opening the cassette chamber. Go ahead and raise the lever to open the cassette chamber. We're going to leave this up for right now. Next, we're going to open up the main cover. Next, remove any spool that still may be on the spindle. Then we're going to put the bolt roll in the main chamber. And be sure you're getting your spool sitting on your spindle. But at the same time, we're going to thread the leader through the main film gate. Just like that. Next, replace the main chamber cover, making sure that the cover gate, this right here, is aligned with the other film gate. You don't want to force it down. And at this point, the little nub on the main chamber cover is sitting at about 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. Now, since we have the lever in the open position, you'll notice that it doesn't align with the notch on the main cover. So we're going to rotate the cover clockwise until it does. Now, this is important because this is going to mean that the film gate is closed, because that's where you want it to be, because we're about to take it out of the changing bag. So go ahead and secure the main cover. Now you can remove it from the bag and you can close the lever. I know that sounds complicated, but it really isn't too bad. The first time you load one of these, you'll probably get frustrated since you're having to do it all without seeing what you're doing. But just use your hands as eyes and you'll get familiar with it soon enough and it'll be a piece of cake. Now, once you have the film in the loader, you can load a cassette. So let's start with the Watson loader here. Make sure the film gate is closed by rotating it clockwise until it clicks. And then we can open up the cassette chamber and we can load a cassette. All right, so we're going to unscrew the end cap off the cassette and remove the spool. Grab the film leader and tape it to the spool. And when you're doing this, make sure that the flat side of the spool is on the same side as the crank. All right. Then we're going to slide the body of the cassette over the spool and make sure that the film slides between the felt light baffles. And then we're going to screw the cap back on. All right. So we're going to close the cassette chamber door. And we're going to rotate the main chamber cover counterclockwise to open the gate. And then you're ready to start winding. Make sure that the grooves on the crank align with the spool correctly. The Watson and Alden style loaders have a film counter. So you can set this to 0 before you start winding so you know how many exposures. Or you don't pay any attention to it at all. I have never referred to one of these counters. I just count the clicks. 40 clicks will give you a 36 exposure roll and leave a little extra for the leader. 40. So when you're done, rotate the main cover clockwise again to close the film gate. Make sure that the notch aligns with the lever and you'll be safe to open the cassette chamber. Then you get your scissors and you just cut across the film like so. And you'll have something that looks like this. Now, the last thing that you'll need to do is cut a leader for the take-up spool in your camera. So preloaded film cassettes come with a very distinctly shaped leader. However, I usually just make one diagonal cut like this. And make sure that when you do this, that the end of the spool that protrudes through the cassette is at the bottom. Never in my life have I attempted to replicate the stock leader shape. I find that's unnecessary because I've never had any roll fail to load due to the shape of the leader. But if you really want to, you can buy a film leader template tool and use that to cut a shape that matches a preloaded cassette. All right, so let's move on over to the Lloyd style loader. So this loader has a much simpler design with hardly any moving parts. The cassette chamber is protected during rolling by the handle itself. Inserting the handle is what locks the door. So the first thing to do is to remove the crank handle, and then you can open the cassette chamber. So just like in the other loader, you're gonna tape the spool to the leader. So we're going to slide the cassette over that then, making sure that the film goes between the felt film gates, and replace the cover. And like with the other one, make sure that the flat side of the spool is where the crank is going to go. So then we're going to close the chamber door, insert the handle all the way. Again, the grooves on the crank are designed to match the internal structure of the take-up spool, so make sure it engages. You'll know it's set correctly if the crank pushes in all the way. If it sticks out even a little bit, it's going to mean that it's not properly seated. But once you got it set, you're ready to roll. So on this style loader, there's no automatic counter. You have to count your turns. And the little table printed on the side shows you how many to count. For 36 exposures, it says turn it 31 times. Now we're done. All right, so pull this out, cut across, got you a film leader, and we are finished. Now it won't take long for you to make up for what you spent as far as equipment needed to do this. Probably after 100-foot roll, you've done it. Because that's a one-time purchase. The reusable cassettes will last years. I have some that are already 30 years old. Occasionally I'll have had the felt on the film gate detach, and if that happens, I just toss it because it's cheap to replace. Well, I hope you found this video helpful in deciding whether or not to start bulk loading your film. The easy answer is yes, you should definitely do this. It's always going to save you money in the long run. Even in the short run, probably. If you'd like to do some financial figuring for yourself, just remember that you can get 18 rolls of 36 exposures out of a 100-foot roll. So just divide the price of the 100-foot roll by 18 to get an idea of how much you can save. If you hate 36 exposure rolls and you usually just opt for 24 exposures, you can get about 24 exposure rolls out of a bulk roll. So that wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to get notified of all the film photography related content on this channel. I've got lots of new stuff in the works. I'll see you next time.